Number 1, the gaze of power. Power is watching you long before you ever touch it, and the first illusion you must kill is the belief that obscurity keeps you safe, because obscurity only protects the irrelevant, and the moment you show competence, restraint, or ambition, you are no longer ignored, you are evaluated, measured, and quietly placed on a mental ledger. And this is where most men fail without ever realizing it, because they assume danger comes from loud enemies, when in reality, danger comes from silent observers. Men in systems who do not announce judgment but record it, because power does not react emotionally, it collects data, it studies how you handle disrespect, how you respond to delay, how you move when the reward is uncertain. And if you still believe life is fair, that honesty shields you, or that good intentions outweigh bad positioning, then understand this clearly. Morality does not protect you from power, only awareness does. Because Machiavelli never wrote for the innocent, he wrote for the awake. For men who understood that survival at the top is not about being loved, but about being unreadable. And the first ruthless law you must internalize is this: the world tests you before it trusts you, and it tests you by pressure, not by praise, by silence, not by applause, and by watching whether you leak emotion when things do not go your way. Because emotion is information, and information is currency. So every unnecessary reaction you give is a payment you did not need to make. Every explanation is a confession. Every need to be understood is a weakness disguised as virtue, and power takes notes on all of it. So you must learn to move slower than your impulses, to speak less than your ego wants, and to reveal nothing that cannot survive being used against you. Because restraint is not weakness, it is camouflage, and silence is not emptiness, it is pressure. And when you stop trying to prove yourself, something dangerous happens. People start trying to figure you out, and curiosity always shifts leverage. Because the man who is easy to read is easy to control, but the man who is disciplined, calm, and unreadable forces others to adjust, hesitate, and respect. And this is where untouchability begins, not with domination, but with self-command. Because before you can stand above others, you must first be unmovable within yourself, and understand this deeply. Power is watching you, not to help you, not to save you, but to decide whether you are prey, pawn, or problem. And from this moment forward, your task is simple but brutal. Never make that decision easy for them. Number 2, never reveal your true weight. The second ruthless law is this: never reveal your full weight to anyone. Because the moment people believe they understand the limits of your strength, they begin calculating how to step over you, around you, or on top of you. And this is where weak men confuse honesty with transparency, not realizing that transparency is a luxury only the powerless are encouraged to practice. Because power prefers opacity, layers, uncertainty, and controlled ambiguity. And Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he warned that men judge more by appearances than by reality, because few can touch the truth, but everyone reacts to perception. So if you expose your full capacity too early, you destroy suspense. And suspense is leverage. Because when people don't know how far you can go, they hesitate, they overestimate. And hesitation creates space, and space is where dominance quietly forms. So understand this clearly. Being underestimated is not an insult, it is a strategic advantage, but only if you have the discipline not to correct the misunderstanding, because the instinct to prove yourself is the instinct of insecurity, and insecurity is loud, predictable, and easy to manipulate. While the dangerous man lets others misjudge him, lets them relax, lets them assume he is harmless, limited, or ordinary, because the moment you exceed expectations instead of announcing them, you shock the hierarchy, and shock resets power dynamics instantly. And this is why revealing too much about your plans, ambitions, or capabilities is never honesty. It is self-sabotage. Because information travels faster than intention. And once others know what you want or what you can do, they adjust their behavior accordingly, often against you. So speak in fragments, act in full, because words are cheap, but outcomes are undeniable. And the man who moves quietly but delivers decisively forces others into reaction mode. and reaction is always weaker than initiative. So train yourself to hold back. Not because you lack confidence, but because confidence does not need witnesses. It needs results. And when you feel the urge to explain your strategy, pause, because that urge is fear of being misunderstood, and fear makes men leak power, while stoicism seals it, and this is the deeper psychology most never grasp. Mystery magnifies authority because people fear what they cannot measure, respect what they cannot predict, and submit to what they cannot control. So let them see enough to stay curious, but never enough to feel safe, because safety breeds contempt, and contempt invites challenge. And once challenged, power demands a response, and responses cost energy, attention, and position. So remember this law and burn it into your mind. Reveal only what strengthens your position, hide what gives you depth, and never forget that the most dangerous men in history were not the loudest or the most visible, but the ones whose true reach was discovered only when it was already too late. Number 3, control the emotional economy. The third ruthless law is this: never allow others to dictate your emotional economy, because the man who controls your reactions controls your position, and power is never taken by force alone. It is handed over the moment you become emotionally predictable, because anger, excitement, frustration, and desperation are not just feelings, they are signals, and every signal you send teaches others how to move you. So Machiavelli understood that men are ruled not by logic, but by emotion, which is why the coldest individuals often sit at the highest levels, not because they feel less, but because they reveal less. And here is the uncomfortable truth you must accept. People will provoke you deliberately, subtly, casually, not to defeat you, but to map you, to see what disrespect triggers you, what delays weaken you, what praise softens you, because once they know your triggers, they own a remote control to your behavior. So if you want to be untouchable, you must starve them of feedback, because silence after provocation is not weakness. It is denial of data, and denial of data forces uncertainty, and uncertainty destabilizes anyone trying to dominate you. So slow your reactions until they feel unnatural, because speed belongs to emotion, while delay belongs to control. And the man who pauses gains the upper hand without ever raising his voice. And when you do respond, make it measured, minimal, and deliberate, because controlled responses feel heavier than emotional outbursts, and weight intimidates more than volume. So train yourself to observe your feelings without obeying them, to acknowledge pressure without performing it. Because stoicism is not emotional numbness. It is emotional mastery, and mastery creates fear in those who rely on chaos to win. And here is the deeper psychological edge. When people cannot read you, they project onto you. They assume strength, strategy, and intent even when you say nothing, because the human mind fills silence with threat, and that threat works in your favor. So never rush to correct assumptions, never rush to clarify insults, never rush to defend your ego, because defense is an admission of vulnerability, and power never explains itself. It simply adjusts the environment until others adjust themselves. And this is why emotional discipline is not self-help. It is warfare, because the man who remains calm while others grow reactive becomes the axis around which the situation turns. And once you are the axis, others orbit you whether they realize it or not. So remember this law. Control your inner world ruthlessly, because the moment someone can make you feel on command, they no longer need authority over you. They already have influence, and influence is the true currency of power. Number 4, let others burn their bridges for you. The fourth ruthless law is this: never be the first to reveal hostility, because the man who exposes his hand too early sacrifices flexibility. And power is not about confrontation, it is about positioning, because open enemies can be managed, but declared intentions cannot be undone. So Machiavelli advised rulers to let others act first, not out of cowardice, but out of calculation. Because when others expose their aggression, jealousy, or desperation, they justify your response before you ever move, and justification is armor. So understand this clearly. When you strike first without necessity, you inherit blame. But when you wait and allow others to cross the line, you inherit legitimacy. And legitimacy allows you to act decisively without resistance. Because people do not rally behind raw force. They rally behind narratives, and the strongest narrative is reaction, not aggression. So train yourself to remain neutral on the surface, even when you sense hostility beneath it, because neutrality invites overreach, and overreach creates mistakes, and mistakes create leverage. So let others underestimate your awareness. Let them talk too much, move too fast, expose their impatience. Because impatience is the enemy of strategy, and strategy belongs to those who can wait. And when you wait, you collect information without spending capital, because silence costs nothing but yields everything. And here is the darker psychology most men miss. People feel safer revealing themselves when they believe you are passive, and safety makes them careless. And carelessness is confession, so never interrupt someone who is destroying their own position. Never rush to correct lies that benefit you. Never stop an enemy from miscalculating, because miscalculation is a gift, and gifts should be accepted quietly. And when the moment comes to act, act once, cleanly and without apology, because delayed aggression backed by justification feels inevitable, not cruel, and inevitability terrifies more than rage. So cultivate patience as a weapon, not a virtue, because patience allows others to hang themselves with their own actions, while you appear calm, reasonable, and restrained. And restraint always attracts allies, because people gravitate towards stability and chaos always exposes itself eventually. So remember this law and repeat it until it becomes instinct. Never rush to show your teeth. Let others expose theirs first, because the man who controls timing controls outcome. And timing is the invisible hand of power. Number 5, become the center without demanding it. The 5th ruthless law is this: never chase influence. Become the gravity that pulls it in, because the moment you seek attention, you announce need, and need is the opposite of power. While Machiavelli understood that authority grows most effectively when it appears unforced, almost accidental, because men resist domination but submit willingly to inevitability. So if you want to be untouchable, stop trying to be seen and start positioning yourself to be necessary. Because necessity bends hierarchies faster than charisma ever will. And the man who becomes a point of reference controls direction without issuing orders. Because people begin to look to him before acting, not because he demands it, but because outcomes orbit him. So understand this clearly. Power flows toward consistency, reliability, and calm competence, not toward loud ambition. And when you make yourself emotionally stable, strategically useful, and difficult to replace, attention finds you without effort, because systems protect what they depend on. And this is where most men sabotage themselves, by craving recognition instead of leverage, applause instead of control, not realizing that recognition fades, but leverage compounds. So train yourself to speak only when it adds weight, to act only when it shifts reality, and to stay silent when noise would dilute your presence. Because silence paired with results creates authority that cannot be argued with. And here is the darker psychological advantage. When you do not ask to be central, others assume you already are, because restraint signals surplus, and surplus intimidates. So never announce your importance. Never explain your value. Never remind people what you bring to the table, because the table remembers on its own, and the man who must explain his worth is already negotiating from below, while the man who simply delivers forces others to adjust around him. An adjustment is submission disguised as cooperation. So become predictable in your principles, but unpredictable in your moves. Because predictability creates trust, and unpredictability creates respect, and the combination creates dominance. And once you occupy that center, do not abuse it, because power collapses fastest when it becomes arrogant, loud, or sloppy. So stay composed, restrained, and detached, because detachment keeps your judgment clean, and clean judgment keeps you untouchable. And remember this law when your ego demands attention. Real power does not ask to be noticed. It rearranges the room until everyone notices they are already responding to it. And when that happens, you no longer need to chase influence, because influence has already circled back to you, waiting for direction. Number 6, master the art of strategic absence. The sixth ruthless law is this: know when to disappear, because constant presence breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds disregard, while absence creates tension, speculation, and value. And Machiavelli understood that a ruler who is always accessible is slowly stripped of mystique, because people only respect what they cannot fully consume. So if you want to remain untouchable, learn to withdraw before you are taken for granted, because power weakens not when it is challenged, but when it is normalized. So step back strategically, not emotionally, because emotional withdrawal looks like defeat, while strategic absence looks like deliberation, and deliberation forces others to fill the silence with assumptions, and assumptions are rarely in their favor. So understand this deeply. When you remove yourself at the right moment, you shift the psychological balance, because people begin to ask where you are, why you are silent, what you are planning, and questions create unease, and unease creates respect, because the unknown always feels heavier than the known. So do not fear being forgotten, because men of substance are remembered precisely when they are not present. And here is the darker truth: those who panic at absence reveal dependence, while those who remain composed signal autonomy. And autonomy is magnetic. So when you feel yourself becoming too available, too agreeable, too exposed, step back, not to punish others, but to reset the dynamic, because power is rhythm, not constant force. And rhythm requires pauses. So master the pause, master the delay, master the gap between expectation and delivery, because in that gap, leverage grows. And when you return, return with purpose, clarity, and direction, not explanation, because explanation weakens impact, while action reasserts authority instantly. And this is why strategic absence is feared by insecure men, because they rely on constant feedback, while secure men create value by withholding it. And the more unpredictable your availability, the more people adjust around you, plan for you, and wait on you. And waiting is a quiet admission of hierarchy, so remember this law and apply it without guilt. You do not owe constant access to anyone, because access is currency, and currency should never be given freely. And the man who controls his presence controls the tempo of every room he enters. And tempo, not volume, determines who truly leads. Number 7, make yourself necessary, never replaceable. The seventh ruthless law is this: never build your position on popularity, build it on necessity, because popularity fades with mood, while necessity endures through conflict. And Machiavelli understood that rulers who were loved but not needed were always one shift away from irrelevance. So if you want to be untouchable, you must anchor your value to outcomes that cannot be easily duplicated, because the moment you become replaceable, you become negotiable, and negotiation always weakens authority. So stop trying to be agreeable and start becoming indispensable, because systems do not protect feelings. They protect function, and function creates leverage. So ask yourself this without emotion: if I disappear tomorrow, what collapses? Because whatever collapses defines your real power, and whatever continues uninterrupted exposes your illusion of importance. And this awareness is brutal but necessary, because illusions die quietly, while leverage announces itself through absence. So invest your energy in mastering skills, knowledge, or positions that intersect with critical outcomes. Because the closer you are to the nerve center of results, the harder it becomes to move against you. And here is the darker psychology: people resent those they depend on, but they fear losing them more, and fear always outranks resentment. So do not seek gratitude, seek reliance, because reliance forces respect even when it is uncomfortable. And once reliance exists, do not abuse it with arrogance, because arrogance invites rebellion, while calm competence sustains dominance. So stay composed, predictable in delivery, and detached in ego, because ego blinds judgment, and blind men lose power quickly. And remember this law when you feel tempted to overshare, overhelp, or over-explain. The more you dilute your value by spreading it thin, the easier you are to replace. So concentrate your impact, focus your role, and let scarcity do the work for you, because scarcity creates gravity, and gravity bends behavior without force. And when others adjust their plans around your presence, you have already won the deeper battle, because power is not about being in charge, it is about being unavoidable. And the man who becomes unavoidable does not need protection, because the system itself moves to keep him intact. Number 8, control the narrative before it controls you. The 8th ruthless law is this: never allow others to define you first, because the man who loses control of his narrative loses control of his future. And Machiavelli understood that reality matters less than perception when power's at stake, because men do not react to truth, they react to stories. And the most dangerous stories are the ones told about you in your absence. So if you want to be untouchable, you must shape how you are interpreted without ever looking like you are trying to. Because overt self-promotion signals insecurity, while subtle consistency signals authority. So understand this clearly. Every action you take becomes evidence in a silent trial, and people are always judging your intent, strength, and reliability, whether you participate or not. So choose your actions carefully, because actions speak louder not just than words, but than defenses, excuses, and explanations combined. And here is the darker psychology most men miss. Once a narrative about you solidifies, people stop questioning it, and unchallenged narratives become cages, so you must seed your image early, not by talking but by pattern, because patterns are harder to dispute than claims. So be predictable in discipline, restrained in emotion, and decisive in moments that matter, because those traits become your reputation without you ever naming them. And when false narratives arise, do not rush to deny them, because denial amplifies attention, while calm contradiction through behavior dissolves lies quietly. And quiet victories are the most stable ones, because they leave no emotional residue. So never argue with gossip, never fight rumors head on, instead outgrow them, because power does not shout correction, it renders accusations irrelevant. And this is why controlled distance matters, because distance creates perspective, and perspective strengthens narrative control. So limit who has access to your personal world, because access invites interpretation, and interpretation invites distortion. And once distortion spreads, correction becomes expensive. So guard your image, not with vanity, but with precision, because image is not ego, it is armor, and armor allows you to move freely where others hesitate. So remember this law when temptation arises to overshare, overreact, or overdefend. The man who knows who he is does not argue his identity. He demonstrates it repeatedly until no alternative story survives. And when you reach that point, others will speak about you in careful tones, because controlled narratives create caution, and caution is the shadow that always follows real power. Number 9, strike once, end it completely. The 9th ruthless law is this: never engage in half conflicts, because unfinished battles create permanent enemies, and permanent enemies drain power over time. And Machiavelli warned that cruelty, when necessary, must be decisive, not repeated, because repeated force signals weakness, hesitation, and fear of consequence. So if you want to be untouchable, you must understand that restraint is powerful only until action becomes unavoidable, and when action becomes unavoidable, mercy becomes a liability. So choose your battles carefully, but once chosen, end them cleanly, because power respects finality and fear respects certainty. So do not threaten endlessly, do not posture, do not escalate emotionally, because escalation without resolution invites resistance, while decisive closure collapses it. And here is the darker psychology most men ignore. People can forgive aggression, but they never forgive uncertainty, because uncertainty keeps them alert, plotting, waiting for revenge, while certainty forces acceptance. So when you act in a way that leaves no ambiguity about the outcome, because ambiguity invites retaliation, and retaliation forces you into constant defense, and defense is expensive, draining, and visible, while offense, executed once and well, is efficient and quiet. So never seek satisfaction in dominance displays, because dominance displays provoke ego battles, and ego battles attract attention, while real power prefers invisibility after impact. So strike through systems, not emotions. Remove leverage instead of people. Neutralize options instead of personalities, because when someone has no path to recover position, conflict ends naturally, without noise and without sympathy for them. And this is crucial. Never humiliate unnecessarily, because humiliation creates martyrs, while clean defeat creates silence. And silence is the true signal that power has settled. So train yourself to separate emotion from action completely. Because the moment anger enters decision-making, judgment leaves, and poor judgment is how powerful men fall. So remember this law when revenge tempts you to prolong pain. Power is not proven by how long you can hurt someone, but by how permanently you can remove them from relevance. And once the matter's finished, do not revisit it. Do not speak about it. Do not seek validation for it, because revisiting victory weakens it. And the man who moves on without comment appears unbothered, inevitable, and beyond reach. And that perception alone deters future challengers more effectively than any threat ever could. Number 10, become untouchable, then disappear into strength. The final ruthless law is this: once you have built power, stop chasing proof of it, because the man who needs to demonstrate strength has already begun to lose it. And Machiavelli understood that the highest form of dominance is quiet permanence, not dramatic control, because drama attracts challengers, while stability discourages them. So if you want to be truly untouchable, you must transition from seeking power to embodying it, because embodied power does not argue, threaten, or explain. It simply exists and reshapes behavior around it. And here is the truth: few are prepared to accept. The goal was never to be feared, admired, or praised. The goal was to be uncontested, because fear fades, admiration turns to envy, praise invites expectation, but uncontested authority settles into the background, like gravity, always present, never questioned. So detach yourself from the hunger for recognition, because hunger is visible, and visibility invites testing, while fullness creates distance, and distance creates safety. So refine your inner world until external chaos cannot reach it, because power that depends on constant defense is already decaying, while power rooted in discipline, patience, and self-command compounds silently. And this is where masculine stoicism becomes non-negotiable, because the man who is emotionally self-sufficient cannot be manipulated, rushed, or baited. And manipulation fails where reactions are absent. So build routines that strengthen your mind, your body, and your discretion. Because discipline is the scaffolding of dominance, and dominance without structure collapses under pressure. And remember this above all: power does not reward intensity, it rewards consistency, because consistency builds trust in systems, fear in rivals, and confidence in allies. And once those three align, resistance evaporates without confrontation. And when you reach this stage, resist the temptation to preach, because teaching signals availability, and availability dilutes authority. So let others learn by observing the consequences of your presence and your absence, because observation is more convincing than instruction, and the man who lives the law never needs to speak it. And now you understand what this was really about. Not cruelty, not manipulation for its own sake, but survival at the highest levels of reality, where intentions are irrelevant and outcomes decide truth. So if this monologue sharpened your awareness, strengthened your resolve, and reminded you that power is always watching, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because what comes next is not motivation, it is preparation. And the prepared are the only ones power never dares to touch.